For many of us in our past, it was the pastor who stood in the pulpit, or it was the rule book of our denomination that determined what our halacha was, or how we should walk. Now that many of us are no longer in those situations and those gathering places, what do we do now? Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 2 of Torah portion Noach. The word halacha, what does it mean? It is the Hebrew word in the text that suggests one's walk, one's manner of living, who or how one is following someone, our lifestyle, our life choices, according to what the scripture would require of us. So what do we do now? In the Hebraic roots community, many of us are part of a small congregation. The trend among us is 50 or less. That's the case here in Gloucester. We also see that there are a small handful of congregations that are larger. They are the exception and not the rule. But also very well among us are those that are an individual or a small family unit sitting in their homes, studying together, keeping Shabbat together, and then connecting, hopefully, with a larger congregation somewhere distant for the major feast. So I applaud those individuals, those 2 or 3 gathered in His name. You are the real heroes and the backbone of our Hebraic roots community. What do we do now? We don't have an oversight committee. We don't have a large corporate entity that says, okay, everyone, this is how we are to do what we do. So among the great varieties of applications of names and their pronunciation, calendars and their observances, is the new moon a sliver, or is it the dark moon in conjunction? How do we exactly keep Shabbat? What is it that we do to correctly observe the feast days? And on the list would go. Who determines these things for us? For most of us, we are imagining that it is in the kingdom when Yeshua is on the throne that He will finally, ultimately, and correctly establish halakha for us. Do we wait until then to finally observe correctly? Do we simply do what Yehuda, our Jewish brethren, are doing and say that's sufficient? Is there an Ephraimite version of these things? A lot of questions, not a lot of answers. Let's go a little bit more broad spectrum here, and that is to say that we walk then as Yeshua walked, that we try to replicate His activity and His choices as plainly as we can read them in Scripture and understand them. As we said yesterday, there are a lot of things and information that we don't have, a lot of lines that are in between the verses that we wish would have been included. So to have our walk with Yeshua, we have to be willing to go where He's going. Where does it say that Yeshua was going? In the case of Lazarus, Elazar, being raised from the dead, when word came to Yeshua that the delay that he had encountered, waiting days after he received message, our brother's sick, please come heal him. Yeshua waited till Elazar, or Lazarus, was dead, and then He said, now it's time to go and to raise him up. Thomas said, let us go with Him that we may die with Him. He was fully expecting that Yeshua would be arrested and killed on the spot for showing up. So this man that we ridicule about not having good belief was willing to go and to die with his Messiah. If we go to the book of Luke, in Luke chapter number 9, it says then that in verse 51, and it came to be when the days of His taking up were being completed, even He set His face to go to Jerusalem. That is, Yeshua set His face like flint to go toward Jerusalem, knowing that He was going to go and die there. And He sent messengers ahead of Him, and they went and entered into a village of the Shemarim to prepare for Him, and they did not receive Him because His face was set for the journey to Jerusalem. So even though Yeshua had shown up and Yochanan 4, John chapter 4, and spoke to the woman at the well, and the village there had experienced a great revival of redemption and acknowledging Yeshua as the Messiah. When it was time for him to go and to Jerusalem and to die, they didn't receive him because it was offensive to them that he would choose Jerusalem over Samaria. They did not walk with him. Interesting. Let's go down a little bit further in the chapter to verse 57. And it came to be, as they journeyed on the way, that someone said to him, Master, I shall follow you wherever you go. And Yeshua said to him, the foxes have holes, and the birds of the heaven have nests, but the Son of Adam has nowhere to lay his head. And he said to another, Follow me. But he said, Master, let me first go and bury my father. And the scholars say it's not that his father was already dead, but if you'll wait until my father dies and I receive my inheritance, then I'll come and follow you. Yeshua said to him, Let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and announce the reign of Elohim. And another also said to him, Master, I shall follow you, but let me first go say goodbye to those in my house. Yeshua said, No one having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the reign of Elohim. It seems to me that Yeshua is not bending over backwards or making great allowances for those to follow him. Rather, it seems to me that he is saying, count the cost, recognize where I'm going, and be willing to go and do likewise. Be willing to pay the cost. Many of you that are watching this video, you have paid a great cost to follow Messiah. You've been rejected. Family has disowned you. You've lost business opportunities. You've changed your lifestyle, and it has caused you problems, but you are steadfast. You're consistent, and you keep on walking. Again, my hat is off to you, and I applaud you. I encourage you to continue in your halachic walk before Yeshua. But I also need to help us to understand that in the book of Mark, chapter number 5, actually, it's the book of Matthew. I said that wrong. Chapter number 5, verse number 7, it says, if I can get back to the right page here, Blessed are the compassionate because they shall obtain compassion. There's something else I want to bring out here, and that is that in our key verse so far, verse number 9, the name Noach is mentioned twice in succession. There is a scriptural principle that seems to state that when one's name is mentioned twice, Noach, and then the beginning of the next sentence, Noach. Samuel heard his name Samuel. And then what he heard was a decree from the throne of heaven. Moshe, I'm calling you to raise you up to send to my people. It's a decree from the throne. When names are mentioned twice, or words, even Yeshua said, Truly, truly, verily, verily, I say to you, he gives a kingdom principle that is announced from the throne, and it is very concise is the word I'm looking for. Very direct as to how that we should respond. Noah's name is mentioned twice. Grace, grace. Comfort, comfort. And that is, Noah, the comfort that is above, you must now reflect on the earth. Noah's job was to offer compassion and comfort to those who are in the earth. We look around and we see upheaval on many hands, and for many of my generation, we're thinking if they had our parents that whooped our behinds for such behavior, they wouldn't be out in the streets and they wouldn't be carrying on this way. And it would seem to us, if I could just get a hold of them and correct them as I was corrected by my parents, maybe we could straighten this mess out. I don't know that that's the answer. But I do know in the middle of all of this, even among those that are rioting and looting, there are those that are broken and disturbed and hurting. And it's not that they need to be yelled at or even shot at. They need some compassion. That doesn't mean that we turn a blind eye to their actions or their choices. But they need to hear that there's hope. And those are the rest of us. How many are broken and needing compassion? If we want to walk as Yeshua did, a good dose of compassion, mercy, The offering of grace just might be the ticket. We'll talk more tomorrow, and until then, shalom.